Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us tmosso@the1916company.com. Today we're discussing a model launched in late 2022 for the 2023 model year. This is the Omega Seamaster Diver 300-meter James Bond 60th anniversary. And while it pays tribute to 60 years of the cinematic James Bond, it is also designed in the image of the Omega Seamaster Diver 300-meter worn by Pierce Brosnan during his first turn as Bond in 1995 in GoldenEye. So if you're of that era, you remember something very similar to this as the James Bond watch. 42 millimeters in diameter in stainless steel. The watch measures 14.2 millimeters thick, which is a bit thicker than a standard model for two reasons. One is the bubble sapphire, designed to look like a vintage plexi. The other is the caseback animation to create the moire effect. So, adding a little bit of thickness, but to good effect. We have a conventional spacing of 49.7 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip, and the spacing between the lugs is 20 millimeters. Now throwing the watch on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, wears quite nicely, comfortably. It's not as flat as the standard model by about half a millimeter, so you're probably not going to notice the difference. You can see down the barrel, the lugs are well inboard of the edge of my wrist. I own the 41 millimeter version of this watch. The 42 wears just as nicely. And you can see that there's a little bit of clearance, so you could wear this watch on a wrist potentially as small as 15 centimeters circumference, a little bit smaller than my wrist. Taking a look at the bracelet, it's fascinating because though constructed like a bracelet, it works like a strap. We have a wonderful fluid, silky mesh bracelet design. These are beautifully made. They're cut from larger carpets of mesh. And once they're cut, the edges are machined to remove any burrs or sharp edges, so it feels super luxurious, supple, and sturdy. This will never need to be replaced the way a standard strap would. We have a deployant clasp that works conventionally. It's got a pin buckle interior. You can see there is actually a little cinching system for this unique bracelet application. So when the pin goes down, it locks the bracelet inside of the clasp, giving an enormous amount of security against pulling through. And also the excess of the bracelet then goes down under the clasp, and it's hidden beneath the strap and the clasp, so there's no need for minder loops. You can also see here we have a twin trigger release, which keeps everything closed until you want the clasp open. Although this basic design has been in the Omega catalog since the early 2000s, this new clasping system within the clasp and the newly reprofiled outer buckle are recent evolutions. The case, however, very familiar. Lyre-style lugs, so an outward bevel and an inward bevel, and you can see them both there, a feature of Omega watches, sports watches specifically, since the early 60s. Satin finished mid-case, we have crown guard, screw-down crown, 300-meter water resistance, the famous helium escape valve. It's there for saturation divers, so if you are submerged for hours, days, or even weeks on a professional dive with exotic gas mixtures, helium will get into the watch, just as certain types of gases will get into your bloodstream. And as you surface faster than helium can exit the watch. So by opening up this little valve, which can be opened underwater, the helium will exit and open the valve when the internal pressure exceeds external by 2 to 3 bar. So that is your solution to prevent the blowout of the crystals and the seals. Now this is a little bit different from a standard diver 300 meter. We do have a ceramic bezel insert. I'm going to show you something about this bezel insert. Notice that it's fully calibrated, much like the military Seamasters of the 1960s. And then we've got 360-degree calibration of the bezel. You can also see the 60 is green to remind you. Not only is that the index, but 60 years of the cinematic James Bond. Now you can easily align that 60 with the minute hand. Note that the minute hand and the index are different in color from the rest of the dial, so you can easily distinguish them for timing when you are underwater or in the dark. You can also see all three hands are loomed, so that vintage-inspired lollipop seconds hand lets you know your dive watch is running when the lights are out or the light is low. That's an important safety feature. Pierce Brosnan never had it quite this nice. You can see that all of the indices are applied rather than printed. I have the original watch. The indices were printed. You can also see that this is again, a 60s tribute. It's a bit of a 1995-1965 type of matchup, or I should say maybe 1962 type of matchup, in that we have the no date, we have the straight bar bracelet, we have the fully calibrated bezel, but we've also very much got that Pierce Brosnan quartz Seamaster look. And yes, the one he wore in GoldenEye was the quartz version. So we have those hands that are inextricably linked to the Bond watch, the mid-90s, but also the Omega Wave that was an essential part of that aesthetic. Now, the watch does have one setting tool, which is hacking, or stop seconds. When you pull the crown, of course, there's no date, so we don't have a quick set for the date. And yes, I know 300 meters is not 1,000 feet. Just press the I believe button. Everyone does that. Rolling over, you can see we have the rifle motif from just about every James Bond cinematic open since the very beginning. And it's actually running off the same extended pinion as the seconds hand. So you can see that it is creating a motion illusion called the moire effect. And so that is continuously in operation while the watch is running. Now you can see there is also a little surround that's been metallized like everything else on the case back, a special metallization deposit to create the pattern. We have caliber 8806, which is the no-date version of the 8800 in the standard version of this watch. Automatic winding, 55-hour power reserve, stop seconds. It is effectively amagnetic, not anti-magnetic, but amagnetic with anti-magnetic escapement. Balance staff and balance plus a silicone hairspring as part and parcel to that anti-magnetic rating. The Maytaz master chronometer test, which includes anti-magnetism, winding efficiency, power reserve, water resistance, durability, and of course chronometry up to and beyond the COSC standards, tested in 6 positions as a fully assembled watch, not 5 as a bare movement. So it is a master chronometer. For durability, it has a free sprung balance and a full balance bridge. It also beats the quirky rate of 25,200 vibrations per hour, which Omega and Swatch Group brands use for silicone hairsprings. It pivots on 35 joules and uses the George Daniels coaxial escapement system, which uses tangential impulse friction of the impulsing surface against the roller jewel of the balance, and this is less than the sliding friction you find with conventional Swiss lever and pallet stones. So it improves power reserve, reduces maintenance requirements, and it does make the watch more precise. You've got a arabesque pattern on the bridges and the rotor, blackened and polished screws. They both look quite good. You can see how this case has been fixed to the back of the watch. Notice that it features both a knurling and a screw set design, which is a unique fusion of new and old caseback designs right here, but this is also a distinctive part of this model that you will not find on other versions of the Seamaster Diver 300 meter. This is a watch that is full of nostalgia. Depending on what era of man you claim as your youth, early 60s or mid 90s, you're going to find something to love here, and there is lots to love. It is still an ISO 6425 diver, so amid all of the cinematic references, it still gets its core mission done. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.